having the final say. Hyped is going to be starting off on the coin with Innervate, so it seems to be a very explosive start, but he doesn't have some of those early game minions just yet, other than being able to push out something very early on turn with the 5-mana cost card.
Well, he has Innervate and Coin, which is pretty cool, but on the other hand, Kolento has the Haunted Creeper, he has Harvest Golem, and he has Wrath, which will help him to ensure the early game start. And he has Ancient of Lore as a card to refill on turn 7, so it looks pretty good for Kolento, even though Hyped actually got a Harvest Golem, which will be really important here. Is he going to Innervate Harvest Golem? That's the thing. Oh, he decides not to.
I feel like putting out something on turn 2 that's 5-mana cost. You have Harvest Golem on turn 3, or even if you have something on turn 4-mana cost next turn, you can Innervate out that, and then push out Harvest Golem on turn 3, and then have Coin into 5-drop. So Hype has a couple of choices here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I like the Spectral Knight play. Certainly, it's really hard to remove Spectral Knight. Wrath won't work on him. So what are you even going to do here, being Kolento? So just attack.
Just ignore and let your board presence just kind of carry you, and really hope he doesn't have something like Swipe to continue to like fight the board. Hyped also is picking up other creatures to fill out his curve. It's so important that if you're playing Innervate, that you have a way to kind of fix out your curve. Otherwise, if you're just hero powering, then you effectively wasted your Innervate turn.
He was also able to pick up Ancient of Lore, which is pretty important because now the hand size and the card quality for both players is pretty even. But because of the Innervate, it seems like Hyped is actually winning the board position.
One thing that is important to note is that Kolento will be an additional mana compared to his opponent. He is going to have to Wrath and trade it a little bit, so that way he's not losing too much damage. But he will be hitting his combo turn a little bit earlier than Hype. That's something to keep in note. It seems like it will come down to one of these really explosive finishes.
What do you think about those oozes, by the way? When it was first introduced, the card didn't seem that exciting. It's just a 1/2 that copies itself, maybe a combo potential, but here we can see that even though it's not being buffed, it's still a full board, and it's kind of swipe proof as well, because Swipe will not be able to remove it that well.
Yeah, I like Echoing Ooze a lot, although sometimes it kind of unimpresses me. I like the fact that it makes the board pretty annoying to deal with, but when you're playing like this deck against Paladin and then they consecrate you with no Defender of Argus or any way to buff it, it feels a little inconsequential. I sometimes feel like it's like the miniature version of Razorfin Hunter, which is the 3-drop that summons the 1/1 boar. But this, with the combo potentials that you have on its effects, it's pretty cool. Like the Mark of the Wild, for example, on Echoing Ooze puts out 2, 3, 4 Taunters for 4 mana. It's pretty bananas.
Also, I think like the mana difference is actually making all the difference in the world here. Like, because this costs only 2, and Razor for Hunter is 3 mana. Look at Unleash the Hounds. How good it was when it was 2 mana, and now it's 3 mana. It's still good, but it's very different.
Sure, and it inserts into a slot of the deck mana-wise that it's very easy for Druid to kind of sneak in. 2 mana allows him to always have the opportunity to innervate things out. And Hyped is also going to start playing cleanup, by the way, because there's just way too many threats. He doesn't want to have the displeasure of dying to Savage Roar very quickly, as we saw Trump be a victim to that.
And he picks Shade of Naxxramas, pretty nice. Now he will be able to play Shade and Haunted Creeper, or Lothep, depending on what he really wants to do. And this is what we talk about. Decisions. What are you going to do? Are you going to trade? Are you going to kill Haunted Creeper and kill the spiders? And open yourself for swipe? Are you going to push with 4 points of damage? Well, right now he actually decides to trade, because after playing Lothep, swipe will not be played, so he is in a good position. And those oozes are so annoying, with Spectral Knight being forced to trade to attack into them at some point. They're just tanking damage.
Yeah, and this really disincentivizes Hype from just allowing to play something like Lothep, because then the oozes are able to trade into Spectral Knight pretty easily. And generally speaking, it seems like when a Druid player is able to capitalize on Innervate early, that his opponent is going to be thrown off the rest of the game, but
Oh
Kolento
my
has managed to
God.
seize back the board.
Savage Roar. Savage Roar is such a good card in here. This is so much damage, and that Shade of Naxxramas, which is only a 2-2, is really not exciting that now. So Kolento is able to push Hyped to 13 points of health, which is in range. And next turn he will just play Ancient Flora and refill his hand. He has the board, he has an advantage, he has the tempo, he has everything he needed here.
Yeah, and that's why there is something to be said for having that extra mana. He's going to be hitting his Ancient of Lores quicker. He's going to have a 5/5 that needs to be answered on the board. And Kolento is going to have this opportunity to draw into this game-ending combos.
Another Shade of Naxxramas. That Shade of Naxxramas can actually stay on board and patiently grow. And Savage Roar again. Savage Roar with Shade is so cool.
With Savage Roar, I think you just pass then, right? Because then you have the damage next turn if you can't answer it.
Yeah. I think you just pass unless you feel like you can maybe draw into something. Oh, that's fine as well, I guess.
He's being safe and making sure to not allow his opponent to have any way of coming back. Then Hyped has to use this Ancient of Lore more as a heal as opposed to draws. And that feels so bad. Because, again, he is the one that's... now the card advantage is evened out. But then Kolento also has ways to pressure. He draws a second Ancient of Lore. Kolento is so far ahead now.
Yeah, and he can easily draw cards. There's no way to... no need to heal. And he can even push with damage here. He can just ignore this 5/5. He has so much advantage. And he put Hyped in a position where Druid never wants to be in. And a position where you have to defend yourself and clear the board at the same time. And in this situation, you're kind of in a situation where you have to play only one card each turn. He gets a Keeper of the Grove, so he will be able to swipe and Keeper. But doesn't even work well. I guess he can clear. But he knows that next turn is turn 9, and if Kolento has the full combo, again, Force of Nature plus Savage Roar, he's just dead.
Which means Lotheb will have to kind of be played, but your opponent's still pressing for damage, and there are ways to put in other damage besides just spells. It's looking pretty bad for Hyped, especially if a turn like Spectre Knight and Defender of Argus comes out. I don't know how Hyped can kind of come back from this position.
Do you think that a possible play was to actually play Keeper of the Grove and swipe and just gamble your life away? Like, if there is a combo, I'm dead, but if there is no combo, maybe I can actually survive.
Picking up the Druid Claw, it makes an even better choice to put out 11 damage, and now swipe to the face is lethal, even if he clears the board. Hyped is no longer really being able to stay in this game. There's just way too much pressure.
This only proves how strong this Druid is. Like, both of the Druid decks here are so powerful. And Hyped is in a situation where he has to hope that there is no swipe on his opponent's side, but it looks bad for him. He's just dead.
There it is. Kolento takes game number 1 and wins the mirror match, and Hyped will have to turn to something else. And getting the series lead is very important.